Title: The Unearthed Sound. In the quaint, unsuspecting town of Hollow Creek, nestled between dense woods and rolling hills, there was a quaint little radio station known as WCRK. It was a small, aged building with peeling paint and a rusty sign that swayed slightly in the wind. The station had been a staple of the town for decades, spinning records and sharing local news. However, on one stormy night, everything would change. The station manager, Theo, was a bit of an oddball. He had an insatiable curiosity for lost audio recordings and rare music. Every month, he hosted Late Night Lore, a show dedicated to the town's urban legends, folklore, and ghost stories. But Theo felt there was more to tap into, a forgotten treasure buried in WCRK's archives. One dreary evening, as thunder rumbled outside, Theo decided to delve into the basement of the station, a place few had ventured. The damp, musty air greeted him as he picked his way through dusty boxes piled to the ceiling. He sifted through old tapes and cassettes until his fingers brushed against a metal box bearing the letters UNA001. Intrigued, he pried it open and found a single, unmarked tape inside. There was no indication of its contents. Something about it felt weighty, almost ominous. With a sense of excitement tinged with dread, he rushed upstairs to the control room. He couldn't wait to find out what rare gem lay within. As the tape hissed to life, the eerie, crackling sounds filled the small room. Static buzzed at first, but slowly, a voice emerged, faint and distant. It was a woman's voice, soft as a whisper. "Help me?" Startled, Theo leaned closer to the speakers. It felt like the very walls of the station were closing in, the shadows stretching wider as he strained to understand her words. "Please, find me?" A chill crept up his spine. The transmission warped in and out, snippets of a melody laced with sorrow intertwining with the woman's haunting plea. The sound was captivating yet terrifying. It drew him in like a moth to a flame. He was overwhelmed with an urge to know more, but the static soon returned, and the voice faded, replaced by the harsh crackle of interference. "What was that?" he muttered to himself. He was puzzled and a little shaken. After a few moments of silence, he decided he would air it on his show. After all, the town loved a good ghost story. Later that night, as the clock ticked towards midnight, Theo introduced the tape during Late Night Lore. "Listeners, I stumbled upon an unaired recording from our archives," he began, a thrill of excitement coursing through him. "I have no idea who recorded this, but let's take a listen." As the tape played, listeners were gripped by both fascination and unease. Not just the words, but the raw emotion behind the plea sent shivers down their spines. For a moment, silence enveloped the station after the recording stopped, followed by an outpouring of calls from both terrified and intrigued townsfolk. But as the night wore on, strange things began to unfold. The radios in homes across Hollow Creek flickered, turning on and off intermittently. Shadows loomed large in windows, and whispers filled the cool night air. Friends gathered at Theo's station, sharing uneasy glances and hushed voices as they recounted odd occurrences in their homes. It wasn't long before tales of the woman's voice transformed into folklore. "They say she was lost in the woods," one friend said, looking for a way back home. Others claimed that if you listened too closely to the tape, the voice would beckon you into the forest, where time stood still. Days turned into weeks, and the recording gained a life of its own. The local kids, a daring bunch, decided to venture into the woods at night to seek the source of the haunting call. Theo, torn between guilt and intrigue, felt responsible. The very night they set out, he followed them, his heart pounding with trepidation. By the time he reached the clearing, the moon shone down eerily, illuminating a circle of trees. In the center stood the kids, entranced, staring at an old, rotting oak tree. Theo called to them, but his voice was swallowed by the night. As he stepped closer, he noticed something protruding from the base of the tree, an ancient tape recorder, eerily identical to the one he had found. With a cold sweat coating his skin, Theo realized in horror what he had unearthed. The woodland was steeped in the remnants of someone's tortured past, her voice a warning to those who tread carelessly into the darkness. Suddenly, the whispers returned, this time louder and clearer, "Help me." Desperate, Theo lunged for the device, but the ground quaked beneath him, and the voice became a cacophony. He ripped the recorder from the earth and bolted back toward the town, never slowing until he reached WCRK. That night, the storm raged like never before. Theo locked himself in the control room, the voices still echoing around him. Whether it was the blizzard or the restless spirit, he could not tell. But he vowed to never air the recording again. When morning broke, the town was silent. A thick fog enveloped Hollow Creek, and the youth who had ventured into the woods were never seen again. Only the whispers remained, drifting through the air, waiting to ensnare the next unwitting soul drawn to the mysteries of the unaired audio hidden beneath their feet.